Hello and welcome to another Plant Bro Home Journal. I would like to thank you for stopping by, and today we are going to repot a Thanumatophllum sprucceanum. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. We're going to get some potting soil, orchid bark, moss, and a bit of leca. The reason why I like to add leca to my potting soil when I'm repotting my plants is to balance the moisture retention of the soil and to help wick away any excess water that might be making the soil too wet. Before I can repot this, we're going to drill some holes. I personally do not prefer to use catch pots in plastic pots inside of catch pots, decorative catch pots. I prefer to drill holes and just use it as it is. This doesn't really have any benefit or ill effect to the plant. It is just a preference. So you do you. You do not have to do this step. But if you are curious about drilling your own holes, I'm using an arrow tip point drill bit and just using slow, even pressure to get through the pot without causing any cracks or damages. This one is a fiberglass pot. It's not made of clay. Now we're going to start to take apart the old setup that's going on here. I soaked the pot with the plant for about 24 hours prior to starting this project, and of course I let it drain as well. The reason soaking it before starting this project was important is because you can see the shape of the pot has this lip at the top, and I wanted to avoid having to break the pot to get the plant out. So by soaking the substrate very well, it makes it a lot looser and the roots more pliable to get past that narrowing at the very top of the pot. So just working gently with the plant to work it back and forth to get it out of the pot. We've had this plant in this pot for about 3 years, and every time it grows a new leaf, an old one dies. This was a good indicator to me that it needed a little bit more space for growing. Here I am adding all of my ingredients together: orchid bark, the leca, a little bit of sphagnum moss to help retain moisture and to help wick, also giving it just a chunky mix of air and space, in addition to adding the potting soil, which will be the last step. And as you can see at the beginning of the video, I poured a lot of water in here to rehydrate the orchid bark and to help those leca beads absorb a little bit of water in the initial phase. I'm going to pour my dirt in, and then I'm going to mix everything together really well just to make sure that it's well incorporated and that the mixture is somewhat consistent throughout the entire pot. The plant was originally put into a mixture that is very similar, so another reason why I'm not really going to disturb the root ball very much, as most of the roots on the outside are actually not wrapping around the plant. It doesn't look as though it needs much help. I was very lucky and I found a baby one, and I'm going to pot them together in this pot. The problem with the baby, though, is that it was very heavily root bound and did require a bit of teasing. Just to even get it out of the pot was a bit of a struggle. This plant has some very thick roots, and they take over very quickly. But as you can see, I'm just breaking it down. It was in a 4-inch pot, and that is just not enough space for this little guy. So we're just going to break it down a little bit more. I'm trying to get as close as I can, but it's very root bound. So the interesting thing about this plant, the Thanumatophllum, is that it is originally known as the Philodendron Goledii, but it's not a true philodendron. guess they have reclassified it in about 2018 or so to a new subspecies. This plant comes from the French Guineas, and it enjoys actually a very regular type of room air ambiance. It's a very easy plant to take care of in your home. It's a very stately looking plant. As the leaves grow, they take on this circular shape, and the foliage just hangs off of it. This has also been nicely called little fingers, I believe. There's some people call this or fun bun, I've also heard. These are some of the names that has been given over the years. Oh, my supervisor stopped by, just checking, making sure I'm still working hard. She's satisfied with my work to some degree. And so I am just making sure that there's enough soil in the pot to support this plant at the right height, and that's what we're working on there. So yeah, back to the care tips. I've had this plant for 3 years. This room that it is in is a 3-season room. It's very drafty and cold in the winter, but then when the sun comes out, it gets very hot and sunny. Honestly, this plant has not had any issues with temperature fluctuations between 10 degrees Celsius and 40 degrees Celsius. I know that seems very extreme, but this is actually pretty relative to what temperatures would be like in a tropical setting, especially within a rainforest or in a mountain area. It's very comfortable for this plant. Humidity is basically room air humidity. There's no real mist going on in here, although just passively with all of the other plants and all of the other watering, I'm sure that the room humidity in this area of our home is probably slightly higher than what would be a normal standard air humidity. The soil of this plant tends to like being more moist than dry, and this is just how it normally grows in damp soil in the rainforest. So we are just filling it in. We have our baby positioned and just making sure to fill in all those last spaces with dirt. The repotting plants is one of those plant parent chores that should be done when your plant needs it. There's no real hard and fast rule or law about how long you should wait to repot your plant. Some people like to repot them as soon as they come home to check the root system, make sure that the soil is correct for the plant and all these things. I say do what works for you. Although I will also say that it usually takes plants a couple of weeks to adjust to your home's conditions, and repotting can be a stressful experience for the plant, and also transport and acclimation can be stressful as well. So if you take those things into consideration, you still can find what works best for you. I'm just cleaning up the pot, making it look a little bit nicer. This pot has a textured rick-rack kind of wrap around it, so I just want to make sure to get all the dirt out of there before I water it so that it doesn't get muddy if any water gets onto the pot. It's pretty heavy and it's really awkward, so I just want to make sure that I don't damage the plant or myself while I'm trying to put it into this bucket where I can make sure to water it thoroughly. And the reason I'm doing this is to reestablish the roots into the soil and to compact the soil down and also give it a healthy drink. But again, the soil was already pretty saturated when I put the plant into the pot, so this is just more to help settle any loose dirt where there are excessive air pockets, and I'm just looking to make sure that it drains out the bottom. To nicely dress it and finish it off, I'm going to add these little hydro balls that they're not really doing anything but adding a decorative touch. They're also really nice for making humidity trays. You can add these into the bottom, or you can even add them around the base of arrangements if you have like flower arrangements and you want something in the bottom of a clear glass that just looks a little bit interesting to add texture to your space. So we use these from time to time, and just to give a more refined look to the top of our plant. It also does help to retain moisture in the soil and to avoid the evaporation a little bit more. It can also help just keep the dirt down, especially if you've got pets that like to get into your plants and dig around. This might help to keep the dirt more securely into the pot and avoid the pets from throwing dirt all over the place or digging into the pot. This is a little bit heavier and it stops that kind of habit. So yeah, I'm just making her look good, making sure that that top layer is even, and that is basically it. Follow us for more plant care tips and stay tuned again for more videos. Have a wonderful leafy day.